Show, episode number 510. My name is John Morgan, and cold coffee is with me here in the new year, 2025, the first show of the new year. By the way, 510 getting awfully close to 520, which would be 10 years. But 2025, I tell you what.
I was actually going to bring that. When I saw family, my niece was like, "Are you going to do anything big for your 520?" I was like, "What's 520?" She's like, 10 years. I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Well, we went real big for 500, 400, 300, 200." I was like, "But maybe for 520, we'll do something."
I have not mapped it out on the calendar just yet. I'll do that this week, but I'm sure it'll be some week that, like, I know I'm going to be at a CFFC. You'll be somewhere else. We'll be apart somewhere. But that is a pretty amazing thing.
It's coming up.
Well, it's funny because this year, like, first of all, let me just say, we were supposed to get together yesterday. We wanted to do actually on January 1, but I was a little bit under the weather yesterday. I was a little bit sick, so we anyway pushed it today, but it is still the new year. 2025, I know it's just this weird thing with, like, numbers. Like, what does it mean? It's just a number. I mean, but I don't know. Like, 2025, does that, like, sound something to you? It, like, sounds, like, important, big, crazy. Like, I don't know, man.
And it could be. Maybe there's
I'm not saying there's anything important going to happen. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I guess we're just
it
used
certainly
to round
feels bigger
numbers.
than 2024. I mean,
definitely. I mean, like 2020 felt big, and then the entire world got destroyed, and it kind of sucked, and so I think we lost.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope it's not that.
Let's hope it's not that particular thing.
2025. I guess I wasn't around for 75. You were, right?
1975. Yeah. Sure was.
Just before that. I was a little bit barely. I was just a little bit after that, but not conscious of it. Obviously, we all recall 2000, of course. That was big, aided by the fact that people thought the world was going to end with the Y2K, which is goofy in retrospect.
That was so fucking
crazy. I don't know. 2025, it does feel like a big year.
Well, it's like one of those – maybe it is just the numbers because you think about 25, 50. It's like these easy, like these big sort of things. But I know for me personally, I think it is the new year, and I think – I'm hoping this is a big year. So
full of optimism. Full of optimism.
I mean, it's only day 2, so my Buckeyes delivered a serious ass whipping yesterday. So that started the year off strong.
I was gonna say, so we were supposed to get together yesterday. I was a little bit under the weather, and so we talked about it. We said, let's push one day because my voice was bad and all that.
Well, and to be fair, I was like, and I want to watch my Buckeyes play.
I was like,
I might be day drinking.
It worked out. It worked out pretty damn good. Now, because I was going to be respectful of, we were talking about it. I wanted to get the recording done before the Buckeyes game started. I know you were originally like, if I watch it, I watch it. If I don't, I don't. But it's the playoffs. Yeah. It's a big deal. So I wanted to get it done early, which is why I kind of had to call it early because I was still feeling sick. Maybe later in the afternoon I would have felt fine. But anyway, I kind of, in retrospect, was kind of glad it played out the way it did because Ohio State, the Ohio State University, looked fantastic.
Oh, my
and to me, like, I grew up in Texas. Obviously, like, I'm a Vegas guy. I've said it. I'm going to live here the rest of my life.
What a game on that
one.
But
what a game that was, man. That was a phenomenal game.
I forgot that they're on the side of the bracket. Like, the winner of our game was going to play them next.
Right.
So when I go over to the bar that's right around the corner, it's like a Buckeyes bar. I walked in there, and everybody was, like, going crazy cheering for this team. I was like, you're wearing Buckeyes gear, but I was like, what the fuck's going on? Why is everybody cheering this game? And I didn't
Were they
realize.
all cheering for Arizona State?
I think so.
Yeah. I bet.
I think definitely we're rooting for it. I mean, but I think at some point they were just cheering them because it was a great game.
It was a great game.
It went into, second overtime?
Second overtime.
Yeah, then it was like
Texas kicker misses a chance to ice the game, misses a chance to end it. I mean, it went back and forth. It was a really
good game. Yeah, it was fun watching. And then that definitely amped me up for the Buckeyes game. I was like, okay, it's funny because when they switched it over the other one, I was like, why the fuck are we still watching this Texas game? Because I kept it on because it was so good and so many people were into it.
And there were ties to the game.
So they put when they switched it over to ESPN2 for the initial when they thought there was going to the potential that they could have went into another overtime.
Right.
I was like, why don't we just switch everything and say fuck this Texas game? But so many people are into it, and I'm glad that it did end up staying and watch because that's all insight to what's going to happen. But I literally saw that and I was like, oh man, that team looks good. That team looks real good. I was like, I hope the Buckeyes show up. I was like, they got a tough Oregon team they got to deal with. And then before I knew it was like 31-0, 34-0, something like that. And I was just like, please stay like this. Because I was at the bar. They got up to 14-0. And they're like, yes. I was like, I don't want to cheer.
Calm down.
I was like, I don't want to cheer. I was like, I could take another couple scores. Then I'll start getting into it.
Because Texas was smoking Arizona State early on.
Yeah.
It looked like it was going to be a one-sided game.
Yeah.
and then they came back and made it super interesting.
Well, once Oregon started getting their shit together and was driving, I was like, dude, that's what they're the number one team for a reason. Like, they have good shit, but it was just like, when the Buckeyes finally show up and get their shit together, like, they play really fucking good. But I was so stoked, dude.
I bet you were.
So I was just like, January 1 is good so far.
It was a good game. It was fun, and that means
it was a good day
for me. A great day for you. Great day for you. And that sets up a showdown, right? At the Cotton Bowl, which is. I'm excited because honestly, like if you're of a certain age, you remember there were a couple really good games between these two teams. They had a really good little rivalry for a while. But it's going to be it's basically going to be a home game for the Longhorns. Like,
100%.
I mean, the Cotton Bowl, like,
and they're going to play fantastic.
I don't know how the ticket
Rose Bowl
work.
is like a home game for the Buckeyes.
Right.
I mean, like the Buckeyes have played there so many times. Like, for me, I was like, we're coming in here like they're going to be comfortable. They're used to it. The fans are used to it. Going to the Cotton Bowl is going to be a completely different. It's going to be different scenario.
So, do you know how they do the ticket allotment? Because I was kind of wondering how this worked. Because they should hold. Maybe does the bowl game
you have to pre-buy.
A lot of them you have to
pre because they I know at least especially when it comes to a lot of alumni groups and other stuff, they pre-sell the tickets. Like even when the Tennessee one wasn't even decided, they were offering up packages for these playoff games. No refundable, but they're just like, here's an option to buy these tickets, but there's no guarantee that they're even going to make it to these things or whatever.
And if they don't make it, then you get your money back.
But some of them, I mean, like, there was just like, for a lot of the alumni ones, there were no refunds.
Wow.
Like, so you have people that buy into, but I'm sure there's still going to be some that the bowls will release after the fact, but I want to say that there's always like some sort of allotment that they'll give towards the school. Some people have already just bought it regardless.
Well, I was going to say, I hope that they at least hold some section that, like, Ohio State can be represented. Because, I mean, I know the alumni will buy a lot on the resale market, and the Texas alumni will buy the shit out of those tickets on the resale market because it's right down the road, and a lot of them already live in Dallas anyway. You know what I mean? So
it's going to be very, very Dallas. I mean, the Buckeyes travel really, really well. I think that's why a lot of bowls like to, whether fans get upset about it or not, bowls love fans that travel. So a team that travels well always gets some love from the bowl selection people, whether they want to admit it or not. So the Buckeyes travel well. There's definitely going to be as many Buckeyes as possibly there, but that more than likely there'll be a lot more orange and white or whatever.
Burnt orange, sir. Burnt orange.
Fucking color.
If I have to say you have to say. I'm not even a Texas alumni. I like Texas.
Burnt orange.
It'll be pretty. I will say this: the college football playoffs. Obviously we'll see how it all sorts out, whether people like it or not. The bowl games are a tradition, and that's cool. But that first round where there were home games, those crowds were just amazing to watch, man.
I mean, I thought, and I think the quality of the games have been good. Like it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed watching it. Granted, it helps having a team in the running to sort of like keep your interest in it. But I think folks that even if they didn't have teams, I think the games have been exciting to keep people into it.
I think it's been fun.
And I love college football. The sad part is, like, I think if you want to watch as much as you can because it's almost done.
Yep.
So it's like, watch while you can,
That's the truth. Well, that'll be next week. We'll look forward to that. Did want to make brief mention real quick of New Orleans. Actually, as we're sitting down to record this, the Sugar Bowl is on. I absolutely love New Orleans. It's one of my favorite cities on earth. I grew up in Dallas, and I used to go down there all the time. I want to take my family down there in the spring, like this year. Like, my kid's getting old enough now that I think he can appreciate some of the stuff a little bit more than when he was younger. I love the history. I love the culture. Yep. I love the food. I mean, obviously, I love to go have a drink on Bourbon Street or whatever. But
is that a thing?
Less so as I got older versus when I was younger. Like, Bourbon Street is crazy, but it's still fun to at least go down there and have Pat O'Brien's Hurricane or whatever, get a little buzz on. So I love that city. So was just absolutely horrified to see what happened down there. And then the same day we had. I guess you have to call both of them terrorist attacks, right? I mean, what happened at the Trump, this truck bomb or whatever. I know, again, you and I aren't big into politics and airing all that out here, but I definitely wanted to mention it because, A, the city of New Orleans is special to me. Yep. B, the second thing happened here in Vegas. We don't know if they're connected or not, but I guess I'm hoping that it's just like January 1st craziness. You know what I mean? Like, people, again, I kind of mentioned how, like, it feels like a big date. And I know how some people, like, they got manifestos of dates certain on calendars and this and that. And I'm just hoping we talked about this year getting started well.
Yeah.
That was bad, and I hope that was just some isolated nutballs
Yeah.
that were doing something because it was January 1st, 2025.
Yeah, I mean, we can only hope. I mean, it's interesting. People are trying to put a lot of symbolism into things without there actually being anything. The fact that it was a Tesla and parked in front of the Trump, so people are like, oh, well, it's got to be because of the connections with Elon and Donald Trump. I'm like, obviously you can make that speculation, but you're grabbing at some major fucking straws, Like, let's just hope it's nothing crazy, bigger, whatever, and hope. I mean, listening to the reports of the FBI and everybody that's over there talking, saying like there's no reason to believe that this is part of anything bigger. We can't even say for sure that these two incidents are even related. There's a lot of coincidences that they're looking at and stuff, but yeah, hopefully that was the last little thing and not something grander. But it's still like, as much as good shit was happening the first, it was like, wow, we got to have this start the year off as well. Like, hopefully it doesn't set a
I guess
theme.
It's just one of those things that, hey, I would say to everybody out there, like, just be aware of what's going on.
Situational awareness.
It's like I raised my kid. I always talk to him, like little things, that, hey, man, if you're in a busy area, make sure your wallet's in your front pocket. And, hey, if you got your shirt untucked and it's hanging over, stuff like that. Like, like little things you can do and just situational awareness. Perfect. Like, just pay attention to what's going on. If you see something, not stay in your house, not live in fear as you go out there. I mean, look, I'll be honest. My wife hit me up today, and she's like, hey, after you and Cold Coffee are done, she's like, I need to go get something to strip. Will you go with me? I don't want to go by myself. I hate to hear that.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I don't think you need to go that far. My wife's always a little bit errs on the side of caution, but I guess I would just say, like, with people out there, look, there has been some crazy stuff to start, especially if you're in a crowded area or whatever. Like, just keep your head on your shoulders.
Yeah, especially on the strip. I mean, it's always good to have a co-pilot down there anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe she wants to take you out maybe she wants to surprise you and
surprise
have some dinner or something.
Yeah. We could do that. We're still kids, still out of school. We still got a couple days off. Maybe she wants to treat me. She was a good one. She had a good time. Her family was in town for Christmas.
Yes.
They just recently left.
I was wondering about that.
That was very special to her because she only sees her parents about once a year, and she's very, very close to her family. So for them to come here, we figured out it was the first time. It was the first time since 2019. And it was funny. We thought it was 5 years. It had actually been 6 years, I believe it was the case. But I should have remembered because the last time her parents were here was the time when I had to go have that meeting at the office, at the corporate office, because they were moving the John Jones fight. So I guess that was 18, I think. Maybe they came one time in between. No, 18 to 24. Yeah, 6 years.
6 years.
The last time her parents were here was the time that they were shopping on the strip. Eli at the time was only like 6. If he's 12 now, he was 6. And so I was watching him at the house, and I got a call from the UFC corporate office. They're like, hey, there's some late-breaking news. It was a Sunday. I remember. I know if it was a Sunday. They were like, it's a late-breaking news. Is there any way you can get to the office? Like, Dana wants to talk about this. And I'm like, I would love to, but I just got to be honest with you. I have my 6-year-old son with me. Like, can he come in tow? And they were like, all right, just bring him. Let's go. So we just tucked him away over there. And, I should remember that was the last time her parents. Luckily, nothing crazy like that happened this time around, so it was good. But
that's a unique story for him. He's probably too young to really remember what was going on.
No way to remember it whatsoever. But I'll have to bring it up to him. He doesn't. There's so many things that he doesn't realize are abnormal yet. That hopefully one day he'll be like, "What? That didn't happen." Like, it did.
It really did. It really did.
Hey, listen. The other highlight of my holidays, other than my in-laws being in town, I broke out the rice cooker, bro. Cold coffee, true to his word, delivered a rice cooker. If you thought he was just joking, saying this is what I'm going to get you for Christmas, nope. A rice cooker showed up to the house. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've had one use of it. One use, a single use. I'm a convert.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in the rice cooker now. Man, my wife was looking at me a little bit silly yesterday because I broke it out. I was like, I got to try this thing out. I was like, we didn't really have a meal planned around it, but I was like, I just want to make something here. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make some Mexican rice. Her family had left, so we still had a lot of ingredients sitting around. Of course, we had some tomato paste, we had some onions, we had some chilies, we had some, everything they need, some garlic, some other things. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make some rice in this. We actually even had some chicken stock ready to go because her mom had left some chicken stock in there, right? So I just, chopped everything up, threw it in there. I don't even know if do you need to stir it all? I did stir it all. I stirred it.
Even if the rice is just cooking on its own, I mean, you can open up and just stir it to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. You usually don't have to, but if you're putting other stuff in there, I would usually probably mix it
Well,
just to make sure that it's mixing
So
around.
I just do it all nice. I just start. I didn't. Once it started, I didn't. But I just made sure it was all nice and incorporated. I said it was tomato paste.
Yeah.
I made sure it was nice and incorporated before it started. But I'm telling you what, man. If anybody's never had a rice cooker before, you literally just close the lid, hit
the
start,
fucking button,
and then
walk
away. And then 30 minutes later, whatever, you hear a little ding, it's done, and then you open it up. And I read, give it 2 or 3 minutes to let the excess moisture kind of fan off a little bit. I did that, and perfectly cooked, perfectly flavored rice, just absolutely stunning. I may have gone a little heavy on the chilies. We had a couple little serranos in there, and it was a little spicy.
I can imagine.
I liked it.
Yeah.
It was good, but in retrospect,
did they like it?
My wife was like, "Oh my god!" And my kid liked it. He likes spicy food, so he was liking it. But it was a slow build, kind of a burn.
Oh yes, Serranos will get you.
So anyway, but it was good. So thank you to Coke Coffee, and
welcome.
I'm now a member of the choir that is out preaching, saying that the rice cooker is the real deal.
Well, it's funny. I was like, there you go. You got a rice cooker now. You're part Asian. You're like, well, I made Mexican rice, and I was like, well, that still counts. You're making rice, And it's funny because I need to up mine. My model's old. It doesn't even have half the features yours was.
Wow.
So when I looked at it, I was like, God damn, look at all these options.
It's got all kinds of stuff,
man.
man.
Ridiculous stuff.
Steam it.
But I mean, you can even just the slow cook one. So I have a pork shoulder that a lot of times I would either cook in the Instapot, but you literally can put that into the rice cooker that has a slow cook option and just do it right there.
Oh, I love that.
Now I think about maybe I would do the Instapot because that's Instapot's another one that
That's
eventually
another
I'll
tool.
get you.
Another tool. That's down the road.
But the
a
rice
little bit.
cooker is.
I got to
bomb.
master the rice cooker first.
So happy! I'm so glad you got that.
Right away. The first, and I told you this too, but right away, as soon as I tried that Mexican rice, it was really good, and I was like, dude, I want to do dirty rice in this. Like me, talking about my love for New Orleans, man. I want to do dirty rice.
Shit.
The little.
So you've already stepped it up. I mean, basic. A lot of people will never do anything outside of just adding white rice, and because the cup thing is usually it's not a full cup. Usually, I think it comes out to about 3/4 of a cup. You take that cup and then you put it in, and then you just fill the rice, the level. Say you put 4 or 5 of those in, fill the water up to the 5 on the inside. Shut the lid. Hit the start, walk away.
It's the greatest thing
ever. It's done. And
you'll
start noticing the times, depending, some rices, brown rice takes longer.
Right.
It might take 45 minutes, but for a while I knew that once I set my rice thing, I knew 20 minutes later the shit was done. You could just set it, go about your day, go finish cooking something else, and the rice just takes care, and you don't have to do it on the stovetop and stuff. But yeah, it's. Welcome,
amazing
to the family.
I'm
welcome
a convert.
to the fold.
I'm a convert. I'm a firm believer now. I'm preaching the gospel. Go out. I'm telling you right now. If you're a chef at home, if you're the home cook,
and you don't have a rice cooker, more than likely they have one.
Splurge. If you don't have one already, splurge. I thought it was completely unnecessary. Because listen, let's be honest. Rice isn't the hardest thing to cook. It's you know what I mean?
But you can't fuck up rice.
You can. Well, that's the thing is, I was just thought dude, a rice cooker. Come on. Now, I have been fortunate enough to go to Japan. I remember Danny Rubenstein one day, man. He was like, dude, we got to go to the fish market. And I was like, bro, it was the night after a show.
Yep.
And I was tired, but I was like, you know what, man? All right, let's go. I was exhausted. And we went to this little sushi bar in there, and they got that rice cooker, and they're bringing it right out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
dude, that's different level because it's still a little bit warm.
Oh, yeah.
And then you put the fish on it. He's forming it up right there. He's making that. So okay, in that situation, I get it. You're going through this, you need to have it. But I never really understood the need for a rice cooker, and there's still probably not a need for rice. I mean, but if you want perfectly cooked rice, I mean, it's perfect.
Did it come with a little steamer thing? A
little rack. Yeah, a little rack.
So that's
when
when it gets real good because so say if it's going to take a certain amount of time to do the rice and you only need a certain amount of time to steam the vegetables, open it up, put your veggies right on top, shut the lid, and then boom, you got steamed vegetables. Or I've seen people steam fish. I've done dumplings, all kinds of little shit. Just let it steam. Just so good.
I'm gonna get there. Baby steps. I'm a rice cooker. All right, listen. We did have some combat sports action, even though it was kind of an off week for the UFC. I'll start, of course, with Fury Professional Grappling 12 in Philadelphia. I was on the call for that, of course, on UFC Fight Pass. If you haven't checked it out and you're still fiending a little bit during the UFC offseason, please go watch the replay of it. It's a lot of fun. We had a really good time out there. We always have a lot of fun on those year-end events. But Jay Regabudo was with me. Gina Lucia was there. Dean Thomas was part of the broadcast crew as well.
That's awesome.
We were having a little crew. He just he did the post-fight interviews for us, which was fun to have him around. Obviously, Dean's a legend. But some great results in there, man. Sean Brady submitted Richie Martinez with the mounted guillotine. So slick, man. I was really intrigued for that one because Brady, obviously a top position guy. Richie Martinez, who, by the way, Boogeyman, Richie Martinez, the coolest cat ever. Like, literally the nicest, coolest dude ever to hang out with, and was such a great sport, man. I hope we get to have him again in the future. But a big win for Sean Brady. If you didn't see the highlight, beautiful work, man. He gets the top position, and he baits, kind of setting up on the arm, and then reaches back and grabs the guillotine, locks it up, shifts position, gets the squeeze on that. Beautiful work, man. And Sean Brady immediately called out Leon Edwards, said he wants that over in London, so we'll see if maybe that gets done.
That's a fun matchup.
I like that. There's not a lot of options available for him in that kind of top position where he's at. So to go over to London and have that fight there, man, I think that'd be a good one. So
many people weren't calling that dude out, and now I feel like people are starting to do it, which is good. I felt for so long they had a hard time matching that dude up because people just didn't want to fight him.
Yep.
But I think that's an awesome match. That's a tough matchup.
It's a tough fight.
That's a tough fight.
Really, really
That's
tough
a tough
fight because, man, Leon Edwards is a great striker, and obviously, man, the underrated takedown defense that we've seen a lot, man. And I think that's where Sean would want to put the fight. So, I
100%.
Don't think he wants to strike.
Like,
with
don't
him.
stand and strike with Leon.
No,
I
don't think so.
Leon he's one hell of a striker. I mean, that's a good matchup.
I love it.
That's a good matchup.
I do. I love it. I hope that's the one that comes to fruition. No news yet. Pat Downey beat Andre Petrosky. Andre was very frustrated with that, but Pat Downey is a blast. This dude is, he's a rebel. He says what's on his mind. He likes to talk a little trash. That's a perfect way to say it. No filter whatsoever. But Pat Downey was fantastic. Got a big takedown. It went to. So if you haven't seen this year, we switched the rules in our overtime rules to where it's golden score basically. So first points win, which makes the overtimes fun because it's like they're tied, and if there's no submission in regulation, then it's like if you get a takedown, boom, you win, or if you can pull guard, you can sweep. So I mean, it makes it tense because it can happen right away. And Andre kind of shot in for a takedown, and Pat defended it and just reversed with one of his own, had a big takedown, and got the win there. So that was fun. He was great to deal with. Joe Pyfer got a big. Joe Pyfer's overtime win was crazy. He just lifted Nick Willie up and slammed him for the takedown, which was awesome. And then Joe Pyfer teased that he had a fight coming up. The thing was, most of us there knew what his fight was. He actually said on the broadcast, like, Dean Thomas, who he trains with Dean Thomas, he's like, well, you already – it was funny because Dean Thomas was doing the interview. So Dean's like, any fight news? Like, trying to set him up. And Joe was like, you already know what it is, but I'm not saying anything. Well, anyway, the news was broken. I think Alex Buchanan was the first to report it, that it will be Kelvin Gastelum in Mexico City, which I love that matchup. I had heard – it was funny. I had heard –
That's not going to be the main event, though, is it?
I don't know. It could be.
I mean, it's worth,
I don't think it will be, but
I just don't know who else you'd want to throw in that card that's like –
I don't either.
Like that's got Mexican ties that they could do it. I mean – Diego Lopez?
He's the adopted Mexican,
He's the adopted Mexican,
right?
Yep. I mean, it'd be interesting. I'm wondering who it is. But, I mean, because I started penciling. It's funny because I saw that and I started adding my Google Calendar. I was trying to start updating. And just instinctively, I put that as, like, the main event on my thing. I was like, wait, I don't think that's the main event. But I was like, it's definitely main event worthy. I mean, I think they're trying to get Pyfer in a main event role at some point.
I think it would for a fight night, especially. I think it's main event worthy.
Yeah. So it is a fight night, right?
It's a fight night event. It's not a pay-per-view, so it's main event worthy. But I haven't heard that it's 5 rounds for sure. I would think they'd probably want to get either Moreno or Grasso, right? I mean, they'd probably want one of them, but I don't know.
But fight nights are kind of interesting. Like those are your pay-per-view people, like. It'd be interesting, but in terms of like wanting a name that's going to resonate with the actual fans there and make people want to go, I mean, I think Mexico's one of those places that they don't get a lot of fights, so that people are going to buy the tickets regardless to go anyways.
Yeah, they're getting it once a year.
But to get like a real like following to maybe get interest, you would think that they'd put somebody like that on there.
At the very least, they'll have Moreno and Grasso like parading around all week. You know what I mean? Have there maybe even bring. Well, I hate to say this. Can Kane travel right now?
I don't know. I don't think
probably couldn't leave the States, huh?
No.
Yeah.
He's got some serious shit happening.
Yeah. So anyway, hate to say that, but anyway, so I thought that was great.
Aldana's not. She
Aldana
she's
can't
still
be
recruiting.
quite ready yet,
she's
right?
still got to be recovering that. Or That last fight was just unreal.
Vicious.
Her face was mad.
Yeah, because that'd be right about 6 months. I think that would still like open up pretty
But I
easily.
mean, I know they would love having her on. Like if they could have that whole team. Like when we saw them working out, it was Lopez, Aldana, and Alexa Grasso all working out together. I guarantee they would love to have.
They could have all three of them on that card. I mean, that'd be incredible. Yeah. It was funny because I had actually like. So I had heard about Piper's fight, but actually I overheard him talking to somebody else. It was funny because as soon as he was talking to somebody else about what the plan was, and I was in the room. It was actually a couple weeks earlier, and I overheard it. And as soon as I overheard it, just the instinct in me, like I didn't even mean to, like I turned over and looked at him, like because I was like, "Damn, that's a hyped up fight." And he was like, "Keep your mouth shut, Morgan." If I was like, sorry. I was like, I'm just excited. I was like, that's a good fight. So he's like, if this comes out, I know where it came from. I'm like, I'm good. So I like that. We also saw Andre Petrosky got a fight booked as well. He'd be fighting Rodolfo Vieira, so that's great. But I did see I believe, as far as I can tell, the biggest viral clip that I've seen so far was actually the introduction of Andrew Uncut Cockle. So funny.
Oh,
Mahoney tagged me on that the other day, who I've called Tough Enough shows with, and this thing was up over like I think it was like over. I mean, it was a lot of views.
And it's just the announcer like.
It was me. It was me.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was me.
How do you even say that with a straight face?
Oh, they're the best. Let me see where this clip is at.
Uncut Cockle.
Yeah. I mean.
Andrew, you heard that right. Andrew Uncut Cockle is making his way to the mats now. We told you the man was all about entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's his actual nickname? Or
that's his nickname. I was trying to see how many views it has. It looks like 100,000 views, I think, or something.
Wow.
I thought it was more than that.
I mean, if you got a name like that, might as well just have fun with it and embrace it, you know.
And
no one's ever said that, you know, fighters are not like the most like if anybody's going to pull that
975,000 views on Instagram.
That's ridiculous. That's awesome.
That was great. I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't our clip. It was somebody else's clip that took our footage, but it was still funny nonetheless. But that guy, by the way, if you've never seen Andrew Cockle grapple, that dude is what I think grapplers should be. Like, I know that, you know, maybe at high level IBJJF, you're looking for, you know, you got to get certain results because you're trying to get the goal. This dude just takes chances. Like, he might win, he might lose, but he's going to be exciting. He takes chances. Yeah. He leaps for things. He'll put himself into bad positions to keep things moving. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. It's just he's exciting, and yeah, he's got a great nickname as well.
That's pretty fucking ridiculous. And like I just heard it once, and I'm not going to forget it.
Never.
Like that. He's smart. He's smart.
It was good, man. Other results in there. Pat Sabatini got a big win over there. Pat Sabatini is an absolute stud. I think people are finally coming around on how good that guy is. Umi Nakuda was back and had a draw with Riley Palmer. Those two dudes are high level. I think they both deserve to be in the UFC. Alexander Romanov, he just continues to have fun out there. He's always fun. And Bella Mir made her debut. Bella Mir got a submission win. Her opponent, Gabby Best, wasn't excited with it because it was one of those ones. I guess her opponent is double jointed, and Bella got her in an armbar, and it flexed the other way. And as it flexed the other way, the arm that wasn't trapped kind of came over and looked like it was about to tap. And Jonathan Webb, who was the referee, like he stopped it. And Gabby Best was like very, very frustrated, but I kind of got it. Like Bella had the armbar locked in; it was flexing the other way. And like I don't care if you're double jointed. Like
can't. And that's one of those ones where like the refs like I should probably stop this, but like tap please.
Yeah, we're not trying to get ligament damage on New Year's Eve. You know what I mean? So, but Bella, and then. So it was so funny. And then saw Bellamere, happened to run into Bellamere afterwards and was just, you know, talking with her. Like, hey, it was great seeing you again because obviously we've known each other for years around here. Like, so cool to have you here and everything. And so I was like, I was just asking her in the passing. I'm like, so how did you get to do this, by the way? I'm like, you're in the middle of college wrestling right now, right? She's 15-1 on the season.
That's incredible.
She wrestled like 10 days before this, right? And I'm like, it's like, because I didn't know if the women's season was maybe different than the men's or like maybe because there's less teams. There's less teams in women's.
Is it just so it's just full on women? They're not like women that are part of it.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's less college wrestling teams in women's wrestling than there's men's. So I thought maybe it's over and you guys don't come back until March when the tournament is or something. So I wasn't sure. So I was like, how'd you get to do this? She was like, oh, you know, look, they let me go do this. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, so are you done until the tournament in March? She's like, no. She's like, I'm flying to Chicago tomorrow. I cut weight. I got a tournament on Monday. I was like,
oh my gosh.
What? So you competed on Saturday in Philadelphia. You're flying to Chicago on Sunday, cutting weight because it's at a lower weight class, and you've got an all-day tournament on Monday. I mean,
that's a lot of belief in
stud.
herself, you know,
She's
and
a stud.
knew that you just to expect, like, you know, you're not going to take any damage, you're not going to take any injuries, and
Yep.
you're like, yeah, I'll see you there on Monday. Like, don't worry
She's
about
a stud, man.
That's cool.
So it was so cool to see her. Like, obviously, I've seen her since. I mean, she's still a kid. You know what I mean? But like,
So did you see Frank? Was he?
Frank didn't make the trip.
Oh, he
No,
didn't make
Frank
the
didn't make the trip. It was funny because like last second, Frank was like, I guess we got word like, hey, if you guys want Frank to come out, and I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
Comment. He didn't end up making the trip,
Okay.
but yeah, hopefully next time maybe we can get him on a future when we
Yeah.
know further in advance. So obviously, it's always good to see Frank.
Yeah,
man. He's
that's
a good
cool.
dude.
Well,
But yeah,
good for his daughter, man. It's so funny. Like, I remember when Frank was still fighting. She was still that the girl that he was starting to bring that would start hitting some mitts. And I remember him saying like, "Oh yeah, look, this is my daughter. Look, she's getting into this stuff." And I remember thinking like, "Wow, like the talent that she can having Frank to be one of her instructors and just growing up in that, like, the sky was the limit,
That's
you know.
it.
So cool.
To-
But now to see her now actually competing and stuff definitely makes me feel old.
Oh,
But-
oh yeah! You start to see the kids coming around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes you feel old, but yeah, because you know I think the biggest thing about that is, first of all these athletes now, they're going to be so much better because like they're getting trained by the best of the best that have been through it, right? Because you know, like Frank's generation, Frank's generation was just figuring out this sport was new. Like nobody really knew what the right training methods were. Nobody knew what worked, what didn't, all that.
They're still training for like some of the individual disciplines,
100%,
stuff like that. Like,
right.
This is now MMA, but taught high level, and it's because I think we've already started to see where people have started just doing MMA as their thing, as opposed to going to judo or karate or whatever.
Yeah.
But this just takes it to another level because you're having the best possible.
Well, that's what I was going to say. And to me, so I think all the athletes now are leveling up, but then the mental side of it, you know what I mean? Especially when it's your father, right? Like, it's one thing to like, oh, somebody I trust, a coach I believe in, but you're still every now and then he's going to tell you something. You're going to be like, I don't know. But like Frank has literally been there, done that at the highest level and loves you. His kid is going to give you the best advice and it's going to relate to you in a way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like my son, we connect. It's like I can tell him, like, bro, listen, I'm not bullshitting you, man. Like, this is what I'm telling you, why I'm telling you. And it's like, okay, well, that's my dad. I believe him.
And,
it's just.
And I was going to say, any criticism is going to come with a side of love. Like, and if he's saying something, he really wants you to do something.
Yeah.
There's no ulterior motives. I mean, you never know. Sometimes with some coaches, like, you would always think that they think of their fighter's best interest. But if your father is your coach,
that's it. There's an extra
100%
level.
100% that person's going to want you to do the absolute best. And then let alone his experience. And you never know. I'm sure every coach will tell, their best things to their fighters. But if there was ever anything that you kept to yourself that you're like, I don't know if this would just relate to somebody, so I'm not going to say it because it might sound weird. But if you have that knowledge, this is the kind of person that you would share that with. Like, if you're bringing your own up, every bit of knowledge that you ever maybe thought of, like, well, I would love to share this, but it just felt weird or whatever, so maybe I'll just keep it to myself. You share it. You give them everything. And look at what the life that he was able to build by his discipline, by his effort. So for her, she's got to think her whole life was enabled because of the effort that he put into it. So when he says, this is what I did, this is what I did, you could see the fruits of his labor because it's literally her life, And
it's been so cool to watch, too, because it wasn't like the parents forced her into fighting or like even encouraged her into fighting. It was just she was like, I want to do that.
I want to do that.
I'm doing that. Yep. It's like, no, are you sure there's other things to do? It's like, I'm doing that. They're like, all right, well, if you're hell bent on it, I'm gonna help you as much as possible.
Yeah.
But you don't need to. I did this so you don't have to.
So you don't have to.
You know what I mean? Nope, I'm doing that. So anyway, excited to see where her career goes. So that was fun. Cool. So like I said, if you haven't seen Fury Professional Grappling 12, catch the replay. It is on UFC Fight Pass. It was a fun night. I love those year-end events. And it was a really good job. I hadn't worked with Jay Regabudo in a long time. He's so knowledgeable about jiu-jitsu, but he does a really good job as well of like walking you through it, not over jiu-jitsuing it, you know what I mean? But really say, so if, again, kind of feel like the same way that we've tried to do with Match Day with college wrestling, where like we don't want to commentate on such a high level that if you've never seen it, you don't know what the hell's going on. You don't know what's being talked about. That hopefully you can learn a little bit as well. So he did a great job. So there was that, and then of course on New Year's Eve there was Rizin Decade as well. On New Year's Eve, I'm going to admit I did not make the live showing. I think my days of catching the live Japanese events on New Year's Eve are over. I do remember fondly doing that back in the day, staying up all night for Pride events. But your boy's not doing that anymore. But some great fights on there. Some really, really good fights on there. Some really good results. Speaking of kids, Kazushi Sakuraba's kid was on there, which, I mean, that's
crazy.
Again, you just start talking about feeling old.
I was like, oh, my goodness gracious.
It's wild. But so it was funny, though. So great event. Also worth checking out the replay if you get a chance. But it generated some discussion, right? So at Zach Likes MMA, who is a gentleman who basically, man, he's in the Philadelphia area, so I see a lot of him out there. He runs the 4 Ounces to Freedom podcast, and he also comes to a lot of CFFC events. But he gave us props for actually mentioning Rizin in the pre-build. Remember last week we said, hey, just buy, watch that. And then another very supportive Alina MMA chimed in and says, hey, the real ones like Morgan Sean, I appreciate that. If anybody wants to throw some props my way, I always appreciate it. It feels good, right? But anyway, it just generates some discussion because I did chime back, and I was like, look, it is unfortunate because basically they were just commenting, like, it sucks that there's not a lot of interest out there, right? Like, it sucks that there's not a lot of coverage from the media. And I chimed back, and I said, listen, it is unfortunate, but it is also understandable from a business perspective, right?
Yep.
The true love of the sport no longer really factors into coverage choices these days. Like, it's business first and foremost. Zach kind of chimed back. He's like, I get it. We know the viewership's not as much than UFC coverage, but you think during the breaks, there would be more coverage opportunities. And it got me thinking, like, it's a weird thing, and I don't even know necessarily how to verbalize it. I did see, by the way, that MMA Fighting was there, right? Casey and Esther made the trip out there. Now, I'd be really interested to know if that was something that the website funded or if they were just like, we want to go out there because we're passionate and we like going over there.
Well, and I think they did some wrestling events as well or something over there.
So
I think it was for them, I think it was like, hey, we want to go take a trip that was special to them.
That's what I'm saying.
And then we'll do some other stuff while we're there.
100%. Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I know how much their passion is about going over there.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would not be shocked if they – it looked amazing, right?
I was like,
But I would not be surprised – would you be surprised if they funded that trip themselves? Do you think
I would guarantee they did it themselves.
Right. There's no way MMA Fighting paid for it, right?
No.
There's no way MMA Fighting.
I think they wanted to go over there for themselves and experience the New Year's event over there and then be able to do that as well. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
And I know that I saw that, and obviously I would never ask you to talk about MMA Junkie's editorial coverage, but I did see that Junkie did put up some photo galleries and some highlights and things of that nature. Obviously not live coverage.
Yep.
It's a weird thing, though, because I get it, right? Like, there's a couple things. Obviously, as a former MMA Junkie editor / reporter, whatever.
Troublemaker.
Well, yeah, exactly. I can tell you that, the social clips and the highlights usually do pretty good, right?
Yep.
Because you're just picking out the big spots.
Yep.
The coverage overall, I can tell you, anything that's not UFC is fractional. Like, it's not even like, oh, is it just a little bit less? Like, no, it's a lot bit less.
Yep.
And then when you factor in the fact that it is the holidays, there aren't a lot of off time. So I'm sure you guys had a lot of people, for instance, again, Junkie or any website, you got a lot of people on vacation. You're trying to cycle in time. So coverage is, it's tough to work it in. But I get this feeling sometimes, and obviously I saw it while I was still there, that, like, it starts to become more about a chase of what we think will get views versus let me cover what I love and hopefully it attracts views because I'm and again, like when Junkie started and it was me and Dan Stupp back in the day, obviously we weren't answering to anybody and we just covered what we wanted to, what we thought people wanted to hear about, stories that we liked, that we were, things that like we wanted to talk about. And through time, that built and evolved into a great thing. But then once a corporation comes in, from a business perspective, like they're just looking at, here's your budget. Did you get the page views you were supposed to get? Did you get, know what I mean? So it becomes really about that chase of it. It's just such a hard balance to strike. And I don't know if there's any way to exist where it's just passion anymore. Maybe just that time passed. Like we were just fortunate to be in on the ground floor and we got to just write about what we were passionate about versus now you got you got to have the bills and you got the you know what I mean? Like it's just tough. It's just such a hard place to be in because I know there's a balance and I wish there was a way that like I would love. Honestly, it didn't work out, but like one of the things I really want to do at mixedmartialarts.com is like I really did want to expand the international coverage. Like why don't we have a reporter that like their job is to cover KSW.
Yeah.
Why don't we have it reported that their job is to cover Rizin? Why don't we have it reported that their like that's their beat?
Yeah.
Not to ever take them away like, no, you can never write about UFC, but hey, you are the insider for this organization right here, and every notable story and everything for these major international promotions will have that. You know what I mean? And I still think that would be a cool idea, especially with the website mixedmartialarts.com. Like, we're the home of mixed martial arts.
In the world.
You know what I mean?
As
like,
opposed to just U.S.-based.
Yeah, exactly. Which, you know, junkie fighting, like, let's be honest. I mean, and again, the UFC, I'm telling you people, when you say compare the traffic, it's not even a comparison.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
And when you look at the analytics, like, the traffic that's coming to our website, it's based out of the U.S. So, of course, we're going to try to focus on the sports and the companies that are dealing here in the U.S. I would say, you know, I think we probably could have did better maybe picking up some of these other, you know.
And again, I don't want you – junkie editorial's not your decision.
Right.
And, you know, and I don't want you talking bad about your employers.
That's the thing. I think a lot of times during the year, I think since we haven't actively taken a bigger role in covering them.
Why cover just the end-of-year show?
Why just cover the end-of-year show?
I agree, too.
Because at that point, you know, we haven't established a really like an audience that's coming to us to look for the Rizin stuff and some of these other ones. So I think if that was the case, and maybe, you know, I think that we probably could have been like, okay, you know, maybe we'll pay a bigger thing. But if we haven't been doing it up to this point, you know, you can't just all of a sudden like, well, hey, look at this, what we got here in this.
Right.
Because people aren't already expecting to come to us for it.
And so that's a passion standpoint. Now let's look from the business standpoint. You have no SEO in there. People, you know, because you haven't covered any. When people Google, they're not looking for it, right? So both of them go.
And a lot of the athletes, a lot of them just people don't know who they are unless you pay attention to that, and unless you've done your due diligence during the year of covering the different events and sort of building up. Most people don't even know. So if you know that your main traffic is coming from the U.S., most of them won't know unless they're diehard and they've looked on their own. Won't even know who half the fighters are on these cards, you know. So I think it probably could do better to do that, and maybe we will in the past. But I think it's just on their end. They're like, well, we haven't covered them this throughout the year, like. Why would we do it? I think they just don't even think about, you know, looking at that sort of stuff. But could we be better in that? For sure. I don't know.
I would like to see. I wish there was a spot that was doing more of that, because I feel like everything is just so. And again, I understand it. Like, I got the emails and I got the traffic reports, and so I understand. I'm not knocking anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's just doing their job. They got bosses that are saying, up your page views, up your video views, up. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, and that stuff's not necessarily new. But I just wonder if over time that could help to up your page views, because now you're going to a different audience.
Yeah.
Now, you know, everybody's covering the UFC. You know, if you had all the, like, oh, man, I know if there's a Rizin on, I better go to Junkie because they're going to have all the Rizin stuff. Let me find out about it. And it would take a long time to build that, for sure. It's not going to happen right away. But there are some great fighters, and there are some great fights. And then what if when Kai Asakura comes over, holy shit, you've got years of interviews and highlights, and all of a sudden, boom, your page is now the Kai Asakura homepage. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
It's true.
I wish there was some more of that. And I will say, like, if there's people out there, and I've said this for years, so this isn't anything new, but I've told people, you know, how do I get in the game? And I always say, listen, man, if you want to be an MMA reporter, like, you want to do this, I would immediately tell you to cover locally first. Yep. But maybe if you don't want to cover locally, right? Like, maybe if you just want to be like, hey, I do want to be the KSW guy. I do want to be the Rizin guy. I do want to be the whatever.
Cover the stuff that
hell
other
out of
people
it.
aren't doing it.
And bro, I'm telling you right now, you would get so many interviews from the PR team. You know, you'd have to build a little bit of an audience, but you would start to get like contacts. You would be the source, you know what I mean? So,
speaking of KSW, do you get those emails? It's all written in Polish.
Yes.
I'm like, bro, can you send me the English one? Like, do you even know who you're sending to? Like, I'm like, I can't do anything with this. I don't understand anything. I'm not gonna fucking Google Translate.
They're KSW. They don't need to translate, bro. They're big over there. Man.
I love it. It's so funny. I wondered if other people. I was like, this can't just be me.
No, it goes everywhere.
So like, I get the email. I'm like, I have no idea what this is saying. I think they're promoting the fight. I can get that.
It's so funny, man. Man, those trips to Poland. I remember when people would be like, "God, you train KSW?" Like, that's a weird thing.
That's
man.
awesome.
They have done well for themselves over there. So, all right. Anyway, just wanted to vent that out. Something I was thinking about. I did want to see. I had a couple notes here. There was one. Oh yeah. Because since there wasn't actual fights to talk about, I had some notes and some things. I did see Fight Oracle. People, I'm sure, know Fight Oracle on Twitter. I think
I haven't seen that name in a while, but
I'm seeing him out there. He's Maybe you blocked him or muted him or something.
Maybe I have.
He rubs some people the wrong way
Maybe
from time to
now
time.
that I think about it.
But
Who
he
knows?
was.
I didn't mean to. I
I
didn't
haven't
really
seen
block
it in
anybody.
forever. That's because you muted him.
Plus, he never know what the algorithm. I mean,
True that.
So it's
Especially
just probably not
because if you're on your
just-
For You page instead of your,
Oh yeah. That For You shit is ridiculous. The stuff that it suggests.
And it's weird because like I feel like it's hypersensitive to like if you see one post and you happen to like just to like sit on it for a second, the next 300 posts you see
all
are
like
all
that.
going to be related to that. Like, hold on, man.
Yeah.
I was interested for a second.
Yeah.
Like, you just changed my entire flow. You took my MMA feed and made me, you know what I mean? Like this conspiracy theory feed in like 10 seconds.
It's so weird. Like, and plus, I'm the worst when it comes to like Twitter because I'm not always on it. I didn't realize. I was like, why am I getting fed this? I was like, I don't follow any of this, and then I realized I was
default
on
to
the
For
For You as
Yep.
opposed to following. I was like, duh.
Yeah.
I was like, let me get off that fucking
Yeah,
tab.
100%. Stay off that tab unless you're ready to go down a rabbit hole. But I did see this because I kind of touched on it, but I wanted somebody else is hearing the same thing. His tweet was retweeting a Don Davis tweet where Don was talking about, the milestones that they accomplished in 2024 and what they hope to do in 2025. And he said, Fight Oracle tweeted, everyone wants a UFC alternative. This is it. Significant format changes are coming to the PFL product. I don't know specifics, but don't think there will be a regular season, but there will be tournaments.
Interesting.
And that is the exact same thing that I heard. So I've been poking and prodding for information, official information, on the record information, and nobody has been willing to do that just yet. But I have some requests in there. But I've heard the same thing, that in 2025, don't expect to see a regular season, but expect to see tournament formats.
Does that mean the
PFL.
$6 million, their $1 million whatever thing?
I don't
Even
know.
that, like, now tell me if I'm wrong. I've heard that $1 million check. It's the $1 million is
Total pay.
Total pay.
Yeah, total pay. Not
So
for the regular season, but for the playoffs.
For the playoffs.
Yes.
So you combine all those different
Right.
ones. So will they adopt that somehow to change that for a tournament one, where the tournament winner
I don't know.
get the same sort of thing?
I don't know. And let's be honest.
Because there'd be less. There's less fights. If it's in a tournament, there can be less fights.
And it should be honest, by the way. There were a lot of fighters that were making more than $1 million anyway. Like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
Kayla Harrison's like, I don't need $1 million in a tournament because I make $1 million a fight. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So there are more out there. Look, I'm just like everybody else. I see all the complaints. You know what I mean? And I see the frustrations of the Bellator fighters, and I get it. Like, I understand where they're. But like we talked about last week, or if it was a couple weeks ago, whenever it was we talked about it. But I know we talked about it, and it is true. And again, not to be insensitive, if they are in violation of your contract, just go sue them.
Yeah.
You will get released from your contract. It's
Yeah.
not that hard. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard. But I hope so. I do really, really hope that they get things fixed. But I feel like I'm more optimistic, man. Because to me, it feels like the public sentiment right now is like, this PFL Bellator thing is trashed. It's done. They're gone. It's over.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I'm a little more optimistic. Like, I feel like even though it's not popular to say, I feel like they weren't holding fights and they were canceling things because they were trying to keep their powder dry. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we could put on all these fights and we could burn through everything, but we want to hang tight a little bit.
Yep.
Let's keep that powder dry. Let's go to 2025 so we can fire up these cannons again. And I feel like even though it wasn't a popular PR decision, I think it was a good business decision. So I'm a little bit more optimistic. But I did hear that I think the regular season will go away, which I'll be honest with you, I don't hate the regular season going away. It always felt to me,
It was a lot of rinse and repeat.
A lot of rinse
the
and
same
repeat.
characters,
You
and
end
I
up
think
with-
that's what a lot of people were kind of just like, we're watching the same shit.
You
know,
get like a
why
rematch
stick
from the
around?
regular season
Yeah.
into the playoffs, and it's like, I just saw this fight.
saw it.
And then you had a lot of criticism, which I think was fair criticism of like, well, how? Because and again, I had mentioned Danny Rubenstein's name earlier. It's funny because I'll mention him again. He was the first one I heard say this. He's like, and I thought this was so true. He's like, if this is a true regular season, he's like, then do like everything else. He's like, I want to see matchup 1 and matchup 2 when the schedule's released. Now, injuries and stuff happen, unlike other sports where you don't, oh, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are hurt this week. Come on in, Green Bay Packers. You don't do that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
But yeah, right. But I did like the idea of what he was saying, because a lot of people felt like, hey, there's some favoritism going on in here and how matchup 2 is getting put together.
Yep, I think that's probably been one of the biggest criticisms going forward, is that they've always had some sort of favorable matchups. And it's kind of like it's always been. It's almost like the little joke when you know that PFL is trying to build somebody up.
Yep.
You know they're going to be throwing some, not, I wouldn't say cans, but you get it.
Yep.
Like it made it easy to say, okay, well they're clearly leaning on this side over here.
Let's see what's going on. They're like, no, it
just happened to work out.
And I always said, if that's the case, then just do like I think we've talked about this before. Like, just put all the names in a pot and be like, hey, here we go. The only thing we'll ensure is that it's match 2 is not a rematch of match 1.
Yep.
This is complete. If you do that,
and then if you're doing something like that, then you can't argue about any favoritism.
Right.
It's literally
that's
a
what I'm
lotto.
saying. That would have been a way. I think that would have way they
Yeah.
could have gone. But it sounds like what they're going to do is just get now how they're going to see the tournaments and how many tournaments. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm. So I just want to say that because I saw his tweet and I'm like, that's interesting because I've been hearing the exact same thing.
Yeah, because they could still play favoritism when they decide who's going to be able to get into the tournament anyways. It's not like it just changes because you're just like, well, we see this many people that have been active throughout the year. We're going to take the top tier of them and put them in this thing. And it's like, well, if you're only keeping certain people active, that kind of even there, you're already sort of selecting your pool. But no, I mean, but I agree with you. If what they had to do was to make sure that they could go into 2025 functionally, economically viable to keep the thing going, then it gives more opportunities then for maybe new sponsors to come in and just keep the thing going.
That's it.
Could they have blown their load and maybe put themselves in more riskier situation for 2025? They probably could have, but I think it does make – I'm sure the fighters don't want to hear this, but, yeah, I mean, you need the company to be economically viable so that you can keep the thing going because last thing we need is for them to not be there.
Listen, let's think back to the pandemic, right, when we had to take time off, right, when we had the furloughs.
Oh, gosh.
That was a
Forced
painful
furlough.
time, right? Painful time.
It was very painful.
I mean, financially for all of us, it sucked. It frustrated because, I mean, a lot of us, we're just such weirdos that we were just like, I want to work. Like, let me work. I don't care if you don't pay me. Like, let me, you know what I mean? I think we all needed some meaning in our life at that point, too.
That we certainly did.
That was weird. But, like, let's be honest. When the furloughs happened, it sucked for all of us. But we all knew, and by the way, I mean,
we knew that it was a temporary.
There was a reason for it, right? I mean, and I don't know how much of this is. I mean, there was stuff that happened financially behind the scenes that wasn't just furloughs, right? There were some drawbacks in a lot of places that impacted all of us financially. But as an organization, as an employee, you had to realize like this sucks. But if this company doesn't do it and it goes under, sucks even worse.
Really suck.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody can see the long-term picture. And also, if you're an MMA fan, like, don't cheer against PFL and Bellator, man. Like, you need them to exist. Maybe a lot of people are looking at this new, GFL as a viable alternative.
Paige Van Zandt just signed up.
I see.
Ready to do it.
Again,
what kind of money do you think they're throwing?
Well,
because she makes mad money on her OnlyFans, unless maybe that's dropped out. Like, she was making mad money. Maybe there's a point where you're just like, I'm tired of showing myself.
or you're not creating as much content, or it's not as popular once. I'm sure.
And the fighting window, there's a time frame.
Yeah.
Like, time always wins. So you're only going to get older and get older. If there was ever any doubt in her mind of whether she still felt competitive, like, go now.
Stack that paper now, right? You got to set yourself up.
Even though when you look at the list, there's a lot of old fighters on there.
I've said it before now, and I'll say it again. I just said, like, and I mean this, if you're a fan of the sport, you want as many options on the table as you can. That's the only way for the sport to continue to grow. It's the only way for the athletes to continue to have opportunities. So I don't want to be pessimistic. I don't want to be, negative, but I still want to see how the whole thing works, right? I mean, I know it's a profit sharing structure. These companies all lose money. So what's a profit sharing structure if the company's losing money? We know how every company loses money. PFL, Bellator, they were all losing money until they got to the point that nobody comes out the gate profitable.
Yeah.
So where does the profit sharing come in? So that bothers me a little bit.
And how long can they go before it goes under?
Exactly.
Can they go a year? Can they go 2 years?
And again, this whole thing about we're going to have a pool of athletes and then we're going to do a draft. What happens to the ones that don't get drafted?
Yeah.
Did you just sign and you don't get? Now I've seen their contracts, or have heard about their contracts. I think they're allowed to. I think people have posted. They're allowed to do other things.
They're not really locked in.
They're not locked in. They're allowed to do other things.
Exclusivity sort of deal.
But yeah, it just concerns me. Like, what happens if they don't get selected for a team? Does that mean they don't get paid? Like, so anyway, I'm a little bit concerned, but. yeah, just don't cheer against these organizations. Cheer for them to do the right thing for sure,
Yeah.
but don't cheer against them. You need these
Yeah.
alternatives. On a much lighter and brighter note, did you see the note that it just touched my heart a little bit that Matt Hamill can hear now?
I did not.
You did not see that?
No.
Oh my God! Well, you had a busy morning. He posted that this morning, and I know
it was on Twitter.
I know that you've been busy this morning doing other things. We'll just leave that between me and you. But
I appreciate that.
No worries. No, he put it on Instagram, and this was awesome, man. He posted a picture of him and his kids, and he said, I just got the most powerful digital hearing aids ever made. For the first time in 41 years, I can finally hear my kids' voices, the sounds of people walking and laughing. I finally heard my mom's voice, and she cried. I'm looking forward to hearing my brother Pat's voice, too. I only hope he doesn't have a voice like a foghorn. This is awesome, although I know it'll take time to adapt to all this. Happy New Year. Matt Hamill, I mean,
that's incredible.
One of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet. Obviously, the Ohio ties.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that, man. Like, and I've seen, we've seen these social media videos, I'm sure, and I've, they're always emotional. But here's a guy that and you know what he's gone through. Like, can you imagine that? Like, hearing your kids' voices for the first time, dude. I mean, you're hearing your mom's voice. I mean, I don't know, man.
That hits different.
Whew, got me, man.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'm happy for him, man. That's fucking killer. No, I didn't see that. That's 2025 starting strong, dog.
I'm telling you, man.
Outside of the crazy isolated shit that we talked about earlier, this is a positive. This is
that not
fantastic.
beautiful, man?
That's amazing.
I had
he was
to share
always
that.
like one of the nicest guys. That
right.
My time around with him. That was the very first event of the UFC 130. It was him versus Rampage. I think it was the fight.
Wow.
I want to say
that was the first one you worked for the UFC.
That was the first one I worked. I had literally been there. I think a couple weeks. Or something like that, and so that was.
So you got there. So it's your first week.
UFC 130. So that was May 28th. I started in May.
So you started.
I started that week. I think literally like May 14th.
You're learning the ropes, and now it's UFC pay-per-view. It's obviously it's in Vegas, so it's at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, which was before T-Mobile opened was the spot, right?
Like, spot.
I mean, that was, and there's a ton of history there. Yep. So what do they throw you in for your first week? Like, what do you like your first month? I mean, your first month, I guess, or your first event. What are you doing,
dude? The craziest thing, and I've told this story before. So like that night, I was literally just like thought I would just be, let me just shadow, let me just see what's going on here. I'll film whatever they want, whatever, blah blah blah. I just figured I'd be doing the cameras, doing whatever. I remember Brad, my boss, is like, hey, so after this one, you're gonna go interview Quentin. You and Lorenzo go interview Jackson after this. So I walk in, and Quentin was renowned for like playing tricks and just doing shit to interviewers or whatever. He looks over, he looks at Zoe, and he's like, "I know you." And Zoe's like, "Yeah, I'm Zoe. I've interviewed you before. We chatted before." And he looks at me, and my boss had put a little piece of like gaff tape and wrote fucking new guy or something on it on my shirt. So I walked in there, and he looks at me, and he's looking up down. He sees a little sticker, and he just looked at me. I was like, yeah, I'm new. It's my this first event, just started, whatever. And he's like, okay. He looks up and down, just kind of looks at me, and then he slaps me. Like that was his welcome. And I remember asking after, I was like, what the fuck was up with that? Like, because I remember when I did that, I was just like, okay, baby. I was like, I guess now we're started or something. And then I went back and told my boss, I was like, that guy's crazy. I was like, we started fucking talking, and then next thing you know, he slapped me. He's like, well, it's better than the leg kicks. I think one of the first time that he talked with him, Quentin leg kicked him. And so I was like, yeah, I would take that over fucking leg kick from that dude any day of the week. But that used to be his thing, like he would just do these random ass shit, leg kicks, hit you in your nuts, slap you, other shit. So I guess I was glad for that. And it wasn't like a hard slap, but it was enough that it shocked me. I was like, what the fuck just happened to me? And I was like, okay, let's get into this interview. But yeah, outside of that, I don't remember. I remember at that point, 2 weeks into a company, you're still fucking like, is my computer set up right? Like I had this shitty little desk in this corner of this room because they had us all smashed into this one room.
And that was by the way, that was well before the nice new offices.
Yes.
The old office.
This was way old.
Were you even in the main building, or were you?
No, we were in the side building.
Building?
That extra little building that was faced the In-N-Out Burger, which was fine. But no, it was unreal. But yeah, I remember that was I'll never forget that event. But yeah, because we ended up having to talk. We talked to him. We talked to everybody. But that was the one I'll never forget it. Because I remember I was happy to that Hamill what he was be able to do. But I had seen Rampage. I'd seen different other footage, and it was just like crazy. And even on that one, Frank Mir was on there versus Roy Nelson, Stephen Struve versus Travis Brown,
Rick Story, Thiago Alves.
Brian Stan,
Jorge Santiago, Demetrius Johnson, and Miguel Torres.
It was like a lot of names that I remember seeing.
Preliminary card was streaming on Facebook. Can you believe that? That's crazy.
Dude, it feels like a lifetime ago. But yeah, that was such a crazy, crazy event. But yeah, that takes me back, man. But so happy for Hamill, man.
That was awesome, man. That one
so cool.
That one gave me the feels. I had to share that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, how can you not, man? How can you not get the feels from that? But
I love it. All right, well, listen, last weekend of being off, no and a half this weekend. We appreciate everybody that supports us over on patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow, but we will return with that next week. Back to work next week with Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Hebus. And I'm just going to put it on the table now, let the record reflect. I had fully intended on being at the first media day of 2025. It was on my schedule. I was fully intending on being there, but I had some stuff come up last minute, just within the last couple days, as a matter of fact. That will no longer be the case, so I will not be there at media day. In fact, you and I got to figure out how we're going to do the road show. I guess we'll do maybe like Thursday or something, because I fly back on Thursday morning, but I've got to be out of town on Wednesday. So I will not be in town for that, but I will be back in time for the fights.
I'm noticing the trend. The trend continues in 2025.
I'm letting you know my full intentions were to be at the first media day, to be back in that seat handling business.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Well, now that just made me think, since media day, you're not going to be there. I want to make sure, send a shout out. Amy Kaplan is transitioning from. Well, she's still going to sort of cover MMA, but she took a job to work for Fanfare.
Tops, right? Tops,
are they called something else?
The company, the trading card company.
Yeah, the trading card, but they're going to do like UFC cards. I think she's not really doing the writing for the cards, but maybe helping with like the photo management. But I think she has the capability of that. But she actually is taking the job over there, so she won't be at media day either.
She became a very
she was a main.
She went from never saying a word in there.
Yep.
Ever to being a pretty big part of media day within the last year or two, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, I give her all the respect. Like a lot of people go to the events, they just want to sit out and just watch the fights. Obviously, I mean that's the best part. She stayed in the media room. She grinded. She got her stuff, and I mean she became like this force. So happy for her. But again, this media day is gonna be a big one, because it might just be me now that she's stepping away. But I did want to give a shout out and wish her the best. She was kind of like the work. I wouldn't say work wife, but definitely the work buddy that I argued with so much.
Well, y'all got
we set
very
side by
on,
side.
You got assigned side by side like every
event. So
every
like
day.
I see this person more than anything else. So like it was crazy, but I'm so happy that she's we talk a lot of times about Vegas and the cost of living here. To be a single mother supporting a family and then without a full-time gig is so scary. So the fact that she got this pretty quick and then she's able to make a move into a new area, I think the Dallas area. I think
that's how she's going to Dallas.
So excited for her, but I want to give a shout out to what she was able to do. For a lot of women are already underrepresented in the sport overall. So for being one, she was definitely a representative of females in the sport, So she's not backing away completely, but she's not going to be at the event, but she'll still be doing her remote stuff.
It's pretty cool when you realize there's other jobs in the industry as well. You know what I mean? There's other ways to make a living in the industry. And you know what? Credit to her, because honestly, like, she did evolve. Like, she put in the work. She was there. Like, she was and look, she was doing power slap and FPI. And I mean, she was
like the power slap chick.
Everything that they did, she was there. So she grinded, and like I said, I'll give her all the credit in the world. She evolved, because there were times when she was like too shy to ask a question. And then over the course of being in that room over and over and over, like she finally got to the point where it was usually like you and her, and then like Alex Buchanan would throw in a couple here and there on days where it was short or whatever, and you guys were holding it down in the media room. So she evolved, man. She grew as as an interviewer and as a journalist in the back. So
so it'll be interesting, but happy for her. We're actually going to go there's a bunch of the media people are getting together for dinner tonight to kind of send her off because I think she leaves this week or something like
Wow.
that. So we'll have a few drinks, even though I had some drinks yesterday celebrating the Buckeyes.
Yes.
I'm a little leery of imbibing any more alcohol. I think I'll probably have a drink, or maybe I'll just have water.
Worked out okay yesterday.
It did work out.
Maybe it'll work out okay tonight. All right, listen, we will be back to work next week. I will be in L.A. I know you're not doing the L.A. trip for UFC 311 to start the week, so we'll be out there.
Remotely.
I'm going to fly in early Thursday, so we'll figure out a schedule for that too. I don't know, maybe we wait to do Thursday till like after the press conference since I'll be out there. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Yep.
And then CFFC, we got a stretch of 5 events in 18 days coming up. I can't wait for that. Yeah, we got 4 CFFC match day events as well as a CFFC MMA event as well. So schedule about to get busy and get cranky, which I am looking forward to. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the holidays. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the time off, but it's about to get back to business. The grind starts again. We'll get back to the and a halves over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. And maybe we'll have some more news to share with you in the very few coming weeks, but we'll update you as soon as possible. In the meantime, go enjoy these first couple days of the new year. Enjoy those maybe this last weekend of kind of fun and festivities before school starts again, work grinds again, all those things that we got going on. Enjoy this last little weekend of fun, and most importantly, thanks for listening.